This is Confessions of an Ambulance Chaser. I'm Katie O'Brien, and I am an ambulance chaser. I'm going to confess that this Memorial Day in particular has me really concerned about our freedoms, as I'm sure many of you are. Usually with Memorial Day, we look forward to things like barbecue, steaks on the grill, being with our family and friends, Budweiser. Enjoy responsibly. But at its heart, Memorial Day usually is a celebration of the freedoms we have because the sacrifices that men and women have made to protect and serve our country. I'm so grateful for that. My dad served in the U.S. Navy, my uncle in the Army, and, we can enjoy these freedoms because of their sacrifices. But it really feels like recently that some of our very basic freedoms and rights that we hold so dear are under attack. In particular, in Texas, some of you may not know that the 7th Amendment is under attack right now in our Texas legislature, and they are trying to push through this bill called SB 30 that really takes away the power of a jury and the judge and the injury victim's right to seek redress in the court. And when this bill first came to light, it was like this whole kitchen sink thing that the insurance lobby had come up with. They call themselves Texans for Lawsuit Reform, but it's really just big insurance using corporations as a shield to protect their bottom line and complain that greedy trial lawyers are ruining the Texas miracle, which really just is Texas is great for big business. But imagine you're in a car wreck and you've never been through that before, but maybe you're young and you don't feel the effects of the car wreck at first. And after a couple of days, you kind of start to notice like your back is kind of sore, or maybe your neck hurts, or you're having headaches and you can't concentrate at work. And so you're like, you know what? I think I need to do something about this. Maybe you call the insurance company and try to do the claim yourself. And hopefully you realize that you really need a lawyer. And the fact is, the insurance company, if you don't, is going to try to swoop in and settle for quick cash. Don't fall for that. Or if you try to handle the claim yourself, they're just going to lowball you. You really need a lawyer in your corner to fight the insurance company. And that's usually where I come in. That's like my expertise. And I'm a trial lawyer. And that's why I proudly wear my 7th Amendment pin to court, is all about your right to trial by jury. But okay, so let's say this bill passes and you've been in a car wreck and you do the right thing and you hire a lawyer. Under SB 30, the defense attorney now has the right to dig around in your entire medical history. And not only do they have the right to dig around in it, the jury's going to see it. So the jury is going to see all this stuff. Maybe you had some medical history that's embarrassing, or you don't want other people to know, which this is, your very private information. We have laws, the HIPAA laws, to protect your private health information. And this is going to put this all in front of the jury. And it's going to confuse them. How is something 10 years ago that's, not related to your neck pain or your back pain, why is that in? And then the other thing this bill would do is if you submit your medical bills that are not paid yet to the jury, the defense attorney then gets to submit Medicare pay rates for those same bills, the workers' compensation rates for those same kind of charges. I mean, this information is completely irrelevant, totally confusing. And juries are already confused. I will tell you that I've tried car wrecks before. We are not allowed to talk about insurance at all. In fact, it's a mistrial if insurance is brought up by the plaintiff. And you can't even be like cute and clever and say things to the jury like, oh, you're not in good hands, or like a bad neighbor, they're not there. All those things, those have been litigated. So I can't even allude to insurance. Yet the insurance company, who is really the one defending the lawsuit when you're hurt, they're going to be able to admit all your medical records. They're going to be able to admit these pay rates that are wildly irrelevant. And normally all that stuff would be kept out by the judge. So you're taking away the power of the judge and you're taking away the power of the fact finder, the jury, because why? That's just going to confuse them. We can't even talk about insurance. I've talked to juries after trials where they said, wait a minute, wasn't there insurance on this? And I said, yeah. And then they said, well, why weren't we allowed to hear about that? And the defense attorney had the nerve to say, because it's not relevant. No, we can't say it because it's prejudicial, because when the jury knows, if the jury thinks that John Doe is the one that's going to pay the bills when you get a jury award versus Allstate or Progressive is going to pay the bills, they're going to be more hesitant to put that verdict on John Doe, thinking maybe he's going to have to pay this versus Allstate, right? So anyway, so SB 30, it's a problem. I think from what I'm hearing, I attended a legislative update this Friday morning. It sounds like the House is going to be working late hours over Memorial Day. And so you could be eating your brisket and the Texas House is taking away your rights if you're an injury victim. So I've kind of sent out a petition that Texas Watch put together, and we can link it in the description, but sign the petition because the other thing this is going to do is going to limit your rights to seek medical care. SB 30 is really trying to get at the doctor-attorney relationship that is just the reality of personal injury. As an injury lawyer, I say that I'm at the intersection of big insurance and our failing healthcare system, because there are so many people that don't have insurance, or they do have health insurance, and the health insurance, even though they've paid premiums and they've used that insurance, then the health insurance wants to be paid back out of an injury settlement. Like, clients hate that. They don't understand, like, why do I have to pay back my health insurance? And it's like this double-edged sword right now. Like, if you are an injury victim, you have Medicaid or Medicare, and so those bills are going to be much lower. That ends up setting the floor where the defense or the insurance adjuster is going to say, well, I had this happen. Why pay, $500,000? Your client almost died, but her medical bills are only $80,000. It set the floor, right? Just like they're trying to do with these billing anchors by entering workers' compensation or Medicaid rates. Those are super low rates. The other thing that this bill is going to do is force doctors who treat injury victims to disclose how many times they've worked with a certain attorney. The reason attorneys and doctors have to work together, really what's happening is either someone doesn't have insurance, or you go to your primary care doctor and you say, hey, I was in a car wreck, I'm hurt, my neck hurts, my back hurts, all that stuff. They don't want to see you, because that primary care doctor, they don't want to be called into trial. They don't want to have to testify in a deposition or testify at trial. They don't want to have to deal with annoying affidavits that attorneys request. It's really injury doctors that work with lawyers that help people get the care they need. And then these injury doctors, they take on huge risk. So they don't get paid unless there's a settlement or verdict. And the way that insurance companies work, and they delay, deny, defend, that whole deal, right? You could be hurt and it's not a year or 2, 3, 5 years before you see a settlement or a verdict. And the whole time that doctor has treated you and not gotten paid. But for some reason, the insurance lobby is attacking this relationship, trying to look like we're the bad guys. And they like to say that we're committing fraud. Well, we're not the ones that are hiding behind our little corporate insureds saying, oh no, these excess verdicts, these nuclear verdicts are making the premiums so high. These laws are not going to make premiums go down. They're just, at the end of the day, trying to protect their bottom line and take away your rights if you're hurt. And so that's happening right now. It's likely going to, I would say, hit the House floor Monday or Tuesday. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Monday. So just be keeping an eye out. sign the petition because you can make a difference. You can sign the petition and tell your representatives to vote no on SB 30. And I've been asking people to call. Like, I called my senator and it took 5 minutes and it was really no big deal. Like, just call your representatives. It's actually kind of like you feel like you've accomplished something when you do that. And they take note. You know, if you are signing a petition, you're making phone calls, it really does make a difference because you are their constituents. You are the people that they're trying to serve. And I think the insurance lobby is trying to pull a fast one on them and act like this is a big problem, plaintiffs' lawyers and nuclear verdicts, and it's killing the Texas miracle. Well, what about the injury victims, right? What about your constituents if they're hurt in a car wreck? Or we saw that huge catastrophic 18-wheeler wreck in Fort Worth recently. You know, there's a bill going through now that I'm hoping will just die in committee that's going to try to rewrite the trucking laws, which were actually rewritten 2 years ago, and they're trying to redo that one. Call your representatives. The other thing I wanted to talk about that I'm sure a lot of you have seen over the internet and on the news is this whole habeas corpus debacle with Kristi Noem, who's the head of Homeland Security. Kristi Noem was testifying and she was asked what habeas corpus is, which habeas corpus is kind of confusing if you don't know what it is. If you're a lawyer, you're like, what does that mean? But she mischaracterized it in a way that is terrifying because she said habeas corpus is a constitutional right the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their rights. And she was cut off by the congressperson, you know, questioning her. The fact that someone in the administration would take this stance is so dangerous because habeas corpus is one of the oldest rights and it's in your Constitution. This is my pocket Constitution. I keep this handy. I read this when I can't sleep at night, when I'm running my docket in my head. Like if I can't sleep, I just read this out like a light. Habeas corpus literally means you shall have the body in Latin. But what it is if you are being detained, so if you're in jail, you have the right to a hearing before a judge to ask the government to produce a valid reason as to why you're being detained. They have to prove a legal basis for why they're detaining you. And so a lawyer would file a writ of habeas corpus. Maybe you've heard of that. And this is not only a really old right that comes from the time of monarchs, because we didn't want people to just be secretly detained or detained indefinitely. It's in the Constitution, and where it lives is Article 1, Section 9, which Article 1 is all about the powers of Congress. The way the Constitution is divided up is each branch of the government has an article, and it talks about, you know, what powers that branch of government has, the separation of powers, which is really becoming iffy right now because this current administration and the president are really overstepping on the executive branch powers. But here they are again trying to overstep. And even if it was like she doesn't understand what habeas corpus is, like it is not anything to do with the president. Habeas corpus is protected under Article 1, Section 9, which says that the Congress cannot suspend habeas corpus unless in times of rebellion or invasion. And so, yeah, this happened a long time ago when Lincoln was president during the Civil War. He suspended habeas corpus, but it was challenged, and then Congress ratified it. And there's been a few other times in our history where it's been suspended, but it's in extreme circumstances. The other thing for me is this is the time of year that I finally made the jump to start my own law firm. So, you know, it's a big deal to me because that was just like freedom. I can work with the clients I want to work with. I can do things like this and do a podcast where I hopefully am educating people on their rights and how the law works. And so when you celebrate Memorial Day today, make sure to celebrate these freedoms and do so responsibly because If you get arrested over a long weekend, you might be stuck there till Tuesday when the judge shows up. But if you want to learn more about the law and your rights, please like and subscribe to our podcast. And if you need a good lawyer, call Katie Law.